So humble was the first one, right?
Yep.
And you talked about ego.
Yep.
Our on the defensive side for my 15 years there, and especially the last 11 when I was the defensive coordinator, our phrase was lose your ego,
Ooh,
right? Lose
yeah.
your ego and just go win the game.
Yo, 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 this is the Streetwise Podcast. I'm your host, Matthew McReynolds. I'm a franchise consultant, a multi-brand franchise owner, a father, a husband, a fitness enthusiast. And it is my mission to help you get off of zero and join the rest of us in achieving your dreams. Get your popcorn ready, buckle up, let's go. When it comes to building great teams, Coach Cain knows what it takes. You can't build a successful team without sacrifice, without everybody on the team committed to one goal. When individuals act like individuals, the team suffers. In order to win, you need everybody on the squad to care more about the team than they do their individual stats. I loved being able to talk to Coach Cain on this episode because, man, when you talk about somebody who knows how to win, this man does. And he's taken it from the football field, and now he's taking it out into the community in his new role as a real estate agent, working with his wife. Man, you talk about somebody who understands sacrifice. This guy does. You're going to learn a lot from this episode. But man, just being able to hear from somebody who's done it at a high level. When I say it, that's all caps, done it. You don't walk away with 5 state championships in Texas, I might add, if you don't know how to win. Buckle up. Check this one out. You're going to like it. I'll see you on the other side. Let's go.
Coach Cain, what's going on, man? Welcome to the Streetwise Podcast. How you doing today?
I'm fantastic. I'm happy to be here, man.
Man, I we were just talking before. I didn't have this one planned in the books. Behind the screen, I've got a huge. Well, I'm a big whiteboard guy. I got whiteboards everywhere. I got names and names on this whiteboard of who I'm going to get on the podcast, and your name's not on there. But when I saw you at the Allen Chamber of Commerce, I just was like, I got to get this guy on, man. So how about you tell the people? Let's do it like this. Tell the people what you're most known for in the Allen community, and then tell me. Let's start there. What have you been up to the last 20 years
Yeah.
in
So
the Allen area?
yeah, I'm Coach Cain.
There we
I
go.
I was a defensive coordinator there at Allen High School for quite a while. I was a teacher and coach at Allen for 15 years.
Wow.
Uh, I started off, believe it or not, I was a biology teacher, taught a full load of biology as I was coaching. And as I moved up the coaching ranks and became a coordinator there, I no longer had to teach biology. I got on the PE side of things. But
Okay.
no, it was awesome. I was a teacher and coach in Allen, and my kids were born there. And man, Allen is a really fantastic place.
Allen really is a fun community. I'm originally from Pflugerville, Texas, down in the Austin area. Went to high school. Man, we were close. We would have played you guys in some of these playoffs. We never made it happen. But did I see right? You guys won a state championship in '08.
We did. We did in 2008. We won. That was the first one in Allen's history. And
Oh,
I
that's
believe we played
amazing.
Houston Hightower, who was
Okay,
just a fun fact. You ready since you're a football guy?
come on.
They had 9 Division I football players just on the defense.
Holy cow! The year you guys played them?
The year we played them on, their defense was absolutely loaded. And then
That's nuts.
Alonzo Highsmith's son, so Alonzo Highsmith played for the Oilers
Okay.
back in the day. His
Yeah.
son was their quarterback, and he carried the offensive side. But they were really a defensive team, and they were absolutely loaded. And we had a quarterback named Tucker Carter who's legendary because he was the backup, and the starter got hurt in like round 4 of the playoffs, and it's kind of one of those Disney magical moments, where Tucker Carter comes off the bench and leads us to a state championship, and he took a beating in 2008 state championship. So bad we had to call timeout just to get him to on his feet, and keep playing. But yeah, it was awesome. 21-14, winner, winner.
Wow. Now, did you guys play that down in San Antonio?
We played in Houston that year.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah, at
cool.
Reliant or whatever they call
Sure.
it. It was pretty cool. We made a day trip, which was another crazy thing. We played the third game on a Saturday, so we had the late game. So we left Saturday morning bright and early, got on a bus and day tripped it down there. And it was a heck of a trip, man. And got
What an
there. They
experience.
got there early. They didn't have a locker room for us because we were a little bit early, and so we literally just camped out in the hallways down in the tunnels, and waited for a locker room to open. It was kind of crazy, and we're playing for the state championship, and we're camped out in hallways,
Yeah.
but it all worked out for the good guys.
Man, that's really cool, man. So let me ask you this. What's more exciting, number 1 or number 5?
Number one's pretty exciting. That
Yeah.
the city had not experienced that before. And let me tell you, the people of Allen traveled well. I mean, golly, I've got pictures in a frame of the crowd, and it was amazing. And so, yeah, they travel well. I'd say number one is really exciting for our city. For the city of Allen, that was probably the biggest one. For me personally, 2012, that was my first one as a coordinator. And so
Okay.
that was probably the biggest one for me.
Okay. Okay. Explain. So you guys from '08 to when was the last one that you won there? Number because there you won 5,
17.
right?
Yeah, we
It was
won five.
17.
So
Okay.
'08 was the first one, 12, 13, 14. Those were the Kyler Murray years. That's what everybody remembers. And then we
Sure.
won
Yeah.
again in 2017. We actually made a
Man.
run crazy from 2012 to 17 to 2018 was in the semifinals or better from 2012 to like 2019,
So
18
you
or
guys
19.
had powerhouse status for a while, which makes sense. You got to kind of have powerhouse status to build that big facility that Allen High School has now, man. I think it's huge.
Yeah, man, it was awesome. Now we didn't have that in 2008. We
Yeah,
played
I
in
know
the
it.
old we played in the old stadium there. The old Eagle Stadium was fantastic as a player and a coach because they packed 8,000 people right on top of you. They moved additional seating on top of the track. Like it was a bowl all the way around, and people were everywhere. And it was old school people standing at the fence. They'd be 2 and 3 deep at the fence, and it was intense because they were on
Oh,
top
I
of you.
love
So as
that.
a player and a coach, it was awesome. For the fans, parking was a little tougher at Old Eagle. Some fans called it the trailer park.
No,
I
okay.
don't
Yeah.
I don't know, but we loved it. So the first one's there at Old Eagle, and then in 2012 is when we opened the new place, and then obviously went on a pretty good run.
Give me some specs on that new place. So I'm envisioning the old one. I never Pflugerville never played Allen when I was there. I don't know if it happened in a playoff run one time or the other, but I'm envisioning that old stadium and I'm envisioning the new one. What are some differences on those specs? How many people can fit in that bad boy?
Yeah, so the new one is like I believe it's 18,000 people.
Oh,
And then obviously state of the art. The old one
it was
had the
nice.
just a good old fashioned scoreboard. There was no video replay. There was nothing along those lines. The new one obviously has a huge jumbotron and cameras from every angle. And like my wife will tell you, the old one basically had one set of restrooms for everybody, and the new one has them, obviously everywhere for the fans, along with concessions and all that good stuff. But that new one's amazing. There's a weight room underneath the visitor bleachers that
Okay.
is 80 yards long,
Holy
and
cow.
there's actually a 3-lane track surface right outside the doors of the weight room. And then on the home side, you get the wrestling area where there's like 3 full-size wrestling mats with cameras on each mat. It's legit. And there's golf on the home side. So there's a golf simulator, golf bays for practice. It's an amazing place.
So the kids of Allen are not without right now.
No,
Well,
not
yeah,
at all.
when it comes to the facilities, at least. No, it's cool, man. That's cool. I was just curious about that. I didn't bring you on to talk Allen facilities, but I just think it's really cool to see how a space in a community can change over time, um, especially when they got the spotlight on them. But something that I was really curious about: what are some of the low points that maybe the team or you experienced during that run where, between almost 10 years where you're winning 5 state championships, you're making it far, even if you're not winning the whole thing, only one team can win, and you're still making it pretty far every single year. What are some of those low points that you still had to overcome during that chapter?
Yeah, so the expectations were huge.
Mm.
There's a lot of work involved with living up to those expectations, and quite frankly, there's a lot of stress that goes with that too. Not just on the coaching staff, but the kiddos. They lived it every day, and it's a lot of work on their end. And the community was so huge in that the parents' support of getting their kids to and from of all the activities that we asked them to do. But it's a lot of work, and so yeah, I think back, really and truly, 2006 we went to the state semifinals. 2007 we had another really good team, top 10 in the state. First round of the playoffs, we play a team that we had previously beaten earlier in the year, and we lost in the first round of the playoffs. It
Wow.
was a huge upset, and it was a Saturday morning game back at the old Texas Stadium. They used to play 4 games in one day, and they had a Saturday breakfast game. I think we kicked off at like 10:30 in the morning, and I'm telling you, we just as a team we didn't wake up until the second half, and we were down I think 35-0 or 35-7 at halftime, and we end up I think losing 42-35 ish, somewhere in
Okay.
there.
You made a run. You made a game
We
of it.
made a run, but we lost. And
Yeah.
let me tell you that spring, um, 2008 spring, going into that 2008 season, it was tough. It was tough on the kids and the coaches. We were all coaching for our coaching career, our life, and our kids were playing because their expectations were way higher too. And it was really cool. I can distinctly remember some kids stepping up in the off season, and basically coaches didn't have to say anything because they told them this is how we're going to do it. And if you don't like it, you can hit the road type deal. It was really cool. We could see the transformation, and we won it in 2008. And so that was huge. But that 2000 end of that 2017, that was tough.
Man, that's so crazy. So I don't talk too much about my high school glory days, but they
Mhm.
were there. In '07, we went to the state championship. We got beat pretty bad by Katy that year. They had a lot of guys that went D1 that year too. So did we. But the year before, so that was '07. '06, the year before my junior year, I think we were 3-7. And coming off of that year, our offensive coordinator, who everybody loved, one of the best, everybody loved this guy. He goes to take another job. And so there was a point where the players, we decided that for us, we're going to put the weight on our back and hold ourselves accountable. We're not going to point fingers at the coach. We're not going to, but it was something that even now as an adult, I look back at, took a lot of leadership. So I'm curious, are you able to, as a coach on that other side, are you able to see, or let me ask you like this, how do you curate that level of ownership amongst the players? Is that something that you as a coach can do, or is it either there or it's not there?
Ah, if every coach could do that, everybody would, be great.
Sure.
It's something. If you could bottle and sell it, you'd be worth millions. It takes a special group of kids. It really does. You've seen it. Everybody in sports have seen it. There are more talented teams that lose. every week.
All the time. Yep.
All the time. It's the special teams that have great leadership from the players, and they trust each other, and they have that bond that's unique to them. Those are the ones that play for a long time. And we see it as coaches now when we go back, and we still have different events that we'll go to together and catch up with guys. You'll see weddings and go to a wedding, and you'll see half the '08 football team at the wedding for one of their teammates, right? And it's,
That's awesome.
10, 12 years down the road, but that's the kind of bond that it takes for those guys to go win big. And it was true in every year that we played. When you had special leadership combined with some really good players, that's when we had special teams.
Okay, so let me kind of dig a little deeper. So what about culture? How do you curate a culture amongst your players? The kids got to have something there, but it does start at the top, and a coach can determine, what type of culture we have. That permission to play bar. Where do we set it? So for you as a coach, what kind of determines that factor? What are you looking for? How do you curate it and be successful there?
Yeah, culture is hard, and it takes a while to get it installed and where everybody trusts and believes in it. And it takes years. And culture starts not just at the coaches, but all the way at the top, from the upper administration in your school district to
Oh, interesting.
align everything, from the superintendent down to the athletic director, down to the coaches, you know, but also your principal and your teachers. It's all got to be in a straight line. And that was the beauty of Allen for so many years, is it was a straight line of communication and everybody working the same direction. And that's a huge part of getting that culture. And then once you have that part of the culture, then you got to get the kids to believe. And when they do, like I said, when they take over and they are the leaders of the team and the coaches don't have to say much, it's really cool. I'll tell you a story.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me tell you a story. We were playing. We're in the playoffs in 2013, and 2013 was a really, really talented team. I think the count is 8, maybe 9 NFL players on that team, and I'd have to make a list and count to make sure I don't leave anybody off. However, the leadership was extremely strong, right? And so we're in the playoffs, and we're in Waco, round 4, 3 or 4 or 5, somewhere in there. And so we went early, and we were at Waco University High School, where we did a meal, got the kids dressed. We had all our meetings and walkthroughs, right? And so they had a couple coaches assigned to just unlock doors and monitor us or whatever from Waco University. And so we take the defense in when it was our turn to have some walkthroughs, and we go in their gym, and we have this walkthrough that lasts about 20 minutes. And literally there was very minimal said by the coaching staff. We gave a signal, we showed a card, we had a scout team, and they ran through some plays, and it was all the athletes doing all the talking, all their communication, all pre-snap communication, all post-snap communication. And it was fantastic. And that was our standard. And that's how we were so good over the years, is those kids took ownership, and the culture was that was their time, right? It wasn't coaches having to tell kids to get locked in, coaches having to tell kids to pay attention. They were locked in and loaded. And so for 20 minutes, the coaches said very, very little, very little. And so I just thought that was normal, right? Because that's the culture that we had built there. And as our kids were leaving, that coach from Waco University that was escorting us, he grabbed me by the elbow and stopped me. And he said, "That was the most amazing thing I have ever seen in my coaching career."
Wow.
And it hit me like, wow, it is pretty special. And I didn't realize it when you're in the middle of it. That was normal. But he said it was the most amazing thing he'd ever seen. And so it kind of made me take a step back and appreciate those kids and how focused they were and how much effort and time and blood, sweat, tears that they put into it.
Yo, thanks for listening this far. It's at this point in the episode that I want to talk about Streetwise franchising, teaching, training, building, Streetwise franchising. As a franchise consultant, It's my job, it's my absolute pleasure to be able to help aspiring entrepreneurs find, launch, and build their ideal business. If you've always wanted to start your own business, but you don't know where to start, if you want to leave that corporate job, but you're a little afraid to take the risk, I'm here to help. I've been a franchise owner for almost a decade. I've learned what it means to build a team, to run a business, to struggle. And I know, based on my experience, how to help others find the right ideal business for them. Streetwise franchising. Stay humble, stay hungry, stay streetwise. Let's get back to the episode. There's so many similarities between business ownership and operating a business and operating a sports team. That's why I firmly believe, from where I'm sitting now, that coaches and athletes make phenomenal business owners if they can keep that same, if they've seen it, like you've seen it, you've experienced top level, and if you've seen it, you can translate it into something else. I almost wonder if you could break down, maybe reverse engineer, where does that start to break down? Where does it go bad? Because it's like the small things that make the biggest difference. Where do most people miss the gap? Where do some teams just miss it?
Yeah, I think on a sports team, when your players start, I hate to use the word selfish, but they start thinking about their own goals and aspirations more than the team, and so when a kid is more concerned about the number of catches he had than the amount of offense our team had, right? When you start getting a little bit of that trickles into a team, that's no good. And that anything that takes away from the team goal of winning, um, that's when it starts to kind of break down a little bit. And when everybody becomes more about their stats or their recruiting or, I'll tell you, social media made it hard, because everybody's wanting to
Okay.
put their highlights out there, right? And it was more about their highlights than it was about us go win a game. And so that's tricky now. That's a part of what coaches have to deal with now is how to navigate that. Yeah, we want you to have great highlights, and we want you to put that out on social media. But the end goal is to win games, and so it's just different. You gotta navigate different things now than you did earlier. But yeah, as long as you can keep everybody focused on the team goal, I think the individual goals will come. That's what we always try to tell them, right? If you go win, the more you win as a team, the more opportunities you as an individual have because you have more people looking at you, right? And so, yeah, I think when it becomes more about me than the team, that's when that culture starts getting broken down.
That's great. Uh, Patrick Lencioni is one of my mentors from afar. He's written a lot of books. He wrote a book, The Ideal Team Player, and that's very much a part of my culture and what I teach my team. And it's based on there's three pillars to being the ideal team player. The first one is humble, and it involves, where does your ego reside? Does it reside in yourself or the bigger picture? The other two are hungry. Do you have any ambition? And then smart is related to emotional intelligence, not IQ, but EQ. If you have all three, it all comes together to be the ideal team player. And that ego, man, it's such a balance, especially with athletes that are trying to showcase themselves and put themselves out there. Sometimes that sacrifice that they have to make as a DB, I'm competing every single rep, not just against the other side of the ball, the receivers, but I'm competing against for my spot with other DBs that are trying to take it away. So my
Mhm.
mindset, am I rooting in the drills, the one-on-ones? Am I rooting for my side of the ball, or am I rooting for the wide receiver to go snag on my fellow DB? Because if he's balling out and I mess up on a day, I might lose my spot. It's those little things that is tough, man. And there's such a
Yeah.
balance. And I think you're
So
right. It starts from the top.
so humble was the first one, right?
Yep.
And you talked about ego.
Yep.
Our on the defensive side for my 15 years there, and especially the last 11 when I was the defensive coordinator, uh, we always our phrase was lose your ego,
Ooh,
right? Lose
yeah.
your ego and just go win the game. And so for you as a DB, what do DBs want to do? The ball's in the air. They want to go destroy a guy, right?
Yeah.
and
Oh yeah.
there's a lot of swing and misses because you're trying to destroy a guy. And so we talk about lose your ego, man. Make the tackle, get him down exactly where you make contact, and don't go for the big hit. Right? It's more cool for the team that he only gets 8 yards instead of you blowing the doors off of him. He spins off the
Big
tackle and gets
play.
80 yards, right?
Yeah.
And so lose your ego is something that we used
That's
on.
awesome. Yeah, and when just to get super micro in the game of football, man, if you look at it statistically, if you can control the big plays and if you can limit those big mistakes, statistically, you're going to win the game over a long enough time horizon. If you can just hold it down. What you just said, that was always easy for me. I was always one of the super fast guys, not the biggest. And so I'm not blowing anybody up. I'm getting you down one way or the other. I was a sure tackler. I'm not blasting anybody. So that concept was easy for me, but it was more difficult in, well, what happens when I make a mistake and dude
Yeah,
catches a ball on me that I almost had, or I don't get called for that holding penalty and now I'm flustered. How do I get out of myself and then get
yeah,
back to that next play and forget, have that quick ability to forget and then get back? And
yeah.
those are things that it's hard for a 16, 17, 18, even a 30-year-old to do. I mean,
Absolutely.
you watch these guys balling out on Sundays, man, and they still struggle with stuff like that.
Oh, you see it all the time. And what we had to do, and we did, and it was fun, is every Saturday morning, obviously, we'd watch the video, right? Well, as the coordinator, I'd make a cut up and I just called it, hey, these are the things I like, right? And so I would show the guys that didn't have the ego, the guys that look at this tackle, he just got
Nice.
tangled in
There
his
it is.
legs, and we called it a hawk tackle, and we'd celebrate those things or celebrate the nose guard for occupying two guys, and doing the dirty work. And so it really became cool, right, to get on that video on Saturday where we said these are the things that we like, and I throw them a little mini candy bar, I had a bag of Hershey's or whatever, and I throw those out in the morning and celebrate that kind of stuff instead of celebrating the big hit, and so it worked
Man,
well. It worked well for us.
that's culture right there. That in and of itself, the small rewarding in public, praising in public, it just speaks to, especially as men, it speaks to our ego because you're telling
Yeah,
me and you're training me that if I can put it down and channel it in this way, I get rewarded by the collective.
yeah,
And I feel like we're all seeking that.
yeah,
Oh, that's special stuff, man. I'm curious. So your journey, I know you were with Sherman, not as long as you were with Allen, but if you look at your coaching career from being position coach and the biology teacher to becoming the coordinator to where you don't got to teach biology anymore, and then just moving up and transitioning, what were some of the personal low points or struggles that you had to overcome? Because I know firsthand life of a coach is not easy, man. It's not
yeah,
glamorous.
yeah.
85% of the time it's tough.
Yeah, it's and because you played and your coaches and whatnot. But what people not everybody understands is how many hours that coaches work. A typical week in season would be, I would say, 80 hours plus, because you work 7 days a week, and uh, and so it's an 80-hour week. And so the low points is the things that you miss with your kids and your own kids and family. I missed weddings. I missed birthdays. I missed, my kids and some of their youth sporting events. Now, I had good coaches that I worked with, and Coach Westerberg and Coach Gamble. If I could squeeze out, and jump to a game for an hour and come back, if the timing was right, they had no problem with it, And so I missed some. I was able to make some, but you do sacrifice the family time. And that's, looking back over 22 years, that's probably the hardest thing that I had to deal with. And it was always a battle with me internally of, am I doing the right thing? Because my family got to experience some crazy, cool, awesome stuff. There was a time when my two boys, when they were really young, they thought it was normal to hang out with Kyler Murray and Bobby Evans and Tay Evans, all these kids, and they're Division I football players, and then played in the NFL. They thought that was normal, and they got to experience some crazy stuff. They walked on going to Cowboy Stadium, walking on the turf is no big deal. They've been on the turf at the University of Texas and at Baylor and in all these different places. And they're like, yeah, that's no big deal. So I always had this internal struggle of I loved coaching. I loved it. And I love people and kids especially. And I love seeing them succeed. However, the internal struggle of what am I sacrificing with my family? And so, yeah, that's the hardest part for a coach, because there's a lot of time spent with other people's kids and not your own.
Wow. Yeah, I did the coaching thing for a while. It's basically what I did before stepping over to the entrepreneurial side, and there's a lot of similarities there. I can truly attest to that. It's funny that you say that about your kids. My wife, her dad played Hall of Fame NFL football player, played for Baylor, was a coach in the NFL after, and she's one of 7 kids, and the life experiences that she had growing up versus me growing up and what the normal was so different, so different. I'm curious. I'd read or I watched a video on you. It was maybe a news release when you were retiring, and it was, at least the media, the comment was, you're going to spend more time with your family.
Yeah,
I'm curious, how has that transition been for you now that you've moved out of the coaching? Because I know personally there's so much identity in the game. There's so much
yeah,
identity in the sport. As I mean, you're still Coach Cain. That can never be taken away from you because you have your athletes. But I'm just curious, you're
yeah.
not clocking in that way every day anymore. What did that do for you? What did that do? And I want highs and lows in for this question.
Yeah.
Time with the kids, like what I want the whole scope.
Yep, yep. So I'm still Coach Cain. I'm just Coach Cain, the realtor, right?
There we
And
go.
so
Yeah,
the highs are definitely. I love being with my family all the time, and
such a
so
special thing.
oh, dude, like I get up in the morning, I make breakfast, I get the boys fed, I make their lunch, I zip their lunch
Wow.
box and have it sitting on the edge of the counter, and I I do everything but pat their rear end as they walk out the door, and they're going to school.
Okay.
And I love it. I love that because I've never done it ever. And as a coach, if I took them to school or got them ready for school, it was hurry, hurry, hurry. We got to go. We got to go. We got to go. And as I was going through all this tug of war of coaching versus let's get into real estate, um, I went and picked up a kid last year. It was in the spring. It was not in the season. And we had early morning lift. We had like I don't know, 7 a.m. lift, right? And so a kid the day before says, Coach, can you come get me? I don't have a ride. Sure, no problem. And I'd picked him up several times. And so I texted him the night before at like 10 o'clock. So I go to bed because we got an early morning. I'll be at your house at 6:30. And he replied, no big deal. And so when I left my house at 6:15, I texted on my way. Well, I didn't get a reply. And at 6:20, as I'm pulling in, I'm like, hey man, I'm almost there. And at 6:25, when I'm sitting in front of his house, I'm texting, and I finally got a reply. So I sat there, and it took him about 20 minutes to get to my pickup. And as I'm sitting there, I started getting upset just because I could have been at home getting my own kids to school, you know. And so that was the low, of when I really started going, I don't know about this, right? And so now I'm on the opposite side. I'm with my kids. I take them, I get them off to school. I go pick the youngest one up nearly every day. I'm at every minute of every game. I don't come power sliding in the parking lot and jumping out, running out to a game.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
there early, and I just get to be a parent. It's awesome. I just sit there and enjoy the game, and I try not to coach them. If they ask me something, I'll tell them. And I was telling my son, he played last night, and I told him, like, yeah, I yelled your name one time, but then I stopped. He's like, how come? I said, well, I was going to tell you to do something, and I was in the bleachers, and I realized I can't do that. And so anyways, of course, he asked me, he's like, what were you going to tell me? So I got to coach him a little bit, but yeah, I just sit there and be a parent. And, my wife for 22 years was driving to all these games by herself and sitting. Yeah, she'd sit with other people or wives, but she was essentially going and watching our kids play by herself, right? And so now she and I go together, and we may even get to have dinner before we go, and
Oh
just
my
relax
goodness.
and then roll up and watch a ball game and just enjoy watching your kids play. So that's cool. The one thing that I do, and I've always done it, is I try hard to stay connected with all these kids that I've coached over the years. I've always been a text guy and just check on them and, hey man, how you doing? Or I saw this or I saw that. Or I love Facebook because I can see their kids and their families and just the simple happy birthdays, just staying connected with all those kids. I love that. So I still get to do that. That hasn't changed. I miss new relationships. I miss the new relationships with kids. I miss, the success stories. I miss that. But even in Sherman, we were playing last night as Sherman team. My kids go to Van Alstyne now, and
Okay,
I was
cool.
able to connect with some kids from Sherman last night. It was great, man. I get a handshake and a hug, and told them and was able to have a good conversation with one. Like, I can still help you, whatever you need, man. You got my number, call. And so I still have those relationships, so I still get to build on those and see these kids do great things as they go through life. So I kind of got the best of both worlds now.
That's really cool. Is there, well, I'll say this, there's such a special relationship between coach and athlete, former athlete, because these guys grow up and they become men, they become husbands, they become fathers, and to be able to see them go through that, and to you, the timeline happens way faster than it happens to them, and you're able to just see that growth, but to them, you're Coach Cain. Like, you're
Yeah,
just a staple. And to be able to be that for somebody else is a really cool thing that not a lot of humans get to experience. I believe that we all should be looking for mentors and then looking for people that we should mentor, but very
yeah,
few people actually do it
yeah.
for a vocation, a career. Before I kind of pivot off of this, I'm curious, is there anything that you would change, whether that's mindset wise or an action or a style, thinking back on the amount of time you were there? Is there anything that you would do differently now that you're out of it? Maybe the way you think, anything at all?
Yeah, I'm so competitive. I'm crazy competitive, and like all coaches, I probably was over competitive in a bunch of situations. Um,
Okay.
in a perfect world, you'd like to be the same guy through coaching and games and intense situations,
Yeah.
and if I could go back 22, 23 years and tell my first year coach self, like, enjoy those situations, stay competitive, stay intense, but enjoy it, and I coached like it was life or death. I really did. And you got to coach hard, but sometimes it's not life or death. Sometimes look around and enjoy it a little bit.
That's a good way to phrase it. I'll ask it that way next time, is what would you go back and tell your first year
Yeah.
self now that you're out of it? That's good. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, yeah. There's so many things that I can think back on that so many coaches, my college coach, Coach Mike Swider, when I was at Wheaton, I have so many of his sayings in my head, and I use them every single day. I mean, it's just it. He is ingrained, and he would always say, if 1% of me can be in each one of my players, then my legacy is successful. I was successful in establishing my legacy. If
Mhm.
1% of me remains in you after you leave. So it's just such a cool relationship. Okay. So explain to me, moving to the next phase, explain to me the pivot. You pivot from coaching, you get into real estate. What's that like? What was the ramp up process like? How you feeling when you first get started?
Yeah. So yeah, it's completely different in that now I'm dealing with adults all the time,
Yeah.
right? But it, I have a great mentor now because it's my wife. She's been in real estate a little while. And so getting to join her and really, it's awesome because I have kind of a cheat code, as I'm going through real estate
Sweet.
school and classes and all that. I can ask her, what does this mean, and explain this better and put it in terms that I understand, And so that's been great. I have her there with me. And then the brokerage that we work with, Coldwell Banker Apex there in Allen is fantastic because it's constant education. Even the most experienced
Mm.
agents, they get constant education, and they're always evolving and sharing ideas. And so we're constantly getting educated. We're constantly learning new stuff. And I love that part of it. And so, yeah, it's been awesome. I'm fired up about it. I'm ready for some interest rates to come down a little bit, like
Yeah.
everybody else.
Like the rest of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, it's great. And it's been a great transition.
Okay, cool. What makes a good real estate agent versus a great real estate agent?
Well, I'm learning that. I'm learning, and I think the great ones never stop learning. I think the great ones aren't afraid to get their hands dirty, and so I keep hearing things through the education, and I keep trying them of get out there, boots on the ground, get out there and go meet people and be involved and do all these things. And so I think the great ones do, and it's nonstop of keep working and nonstop of keep learning. I think would be what separates the good from great.
Have you been able to find certain prospecting methods have worked better than others? What have you liked when it comes to putting yourself out there? And then what are the things that are kind of harder for you personally to do?
Yeah. So, 22 years in education, me communicating with kids, whether elementary, junior high, and high school, is easy. Like that's just what comes natural. For me personally, the challenge has been adult language. I can't talk the same in professional environments that I do in a locker room, and so that's been my transition of learning that, and how to adult all the time, which is fine. I'm still going to be me, but yeah, I'm learning. I'm learning every day, and so I'm going out there. I'm going to the Allen Chamber of Commerce, and I'm meeting guys like you, which
Yep.
that was pretty cool that we had an immediate connection, there with football and getting to talk your days and my days at Allen. So, yeah, just going out there and putting myself out there and meeting new people's been fantastic.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Again, I resonate with that because, as a franchise consultant, a lot of the people that purchase and invest in franchises are, they're executives. They've been in mid-level management for 20 plus years. Now, I've owned and operated franchises for almost a decade, but talking to those guys that are the quote unquote normal franchise investor is a little bit different. And so I want to remain myself, but how do I curate my language? How do I pick the right words? How do I find the right rooms to get in? And so that's the thing for me that I've had to kind of pivot through and figure out. So I totally resonate with that. What's it like working with I mean, you say your wife is a great mentor. What are the struggles of kind of working together side by side? I mean, you can't really leave work alone unless you're super intentional about it. How do you guys handle that?
We're learning.
Yeah.
we're, we're learning every day what our new normal is, and what our routine will be. But I will say, last weekend, kind of had a guys' weekend. We did work a little bit, but Sunday I was gone all day. Me and the boys were gone doing our thing, and Sunday evening she said, "Man, that was kind of nice." Having the day to myself to do her thing, and so
Yeah.
we're learning. It's great because I'm a coach, right? And coaches, a lot of times we say we're a sponge. We're trying to absorb everything and process it, right? And so on this real estate side, when she tells me, I'm trying to absorb it. I'm trying to learn. And so I kind of put myself in that mindset of be a sponge, listen, learn, and kind of let her be the boss a little bit, you know?
That's good. That's wise, man. That's wise. I think that's probably the biggest nugget I just took from you for myself. So I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Okay. Um, what resources are you currently using right now to continue to level yourself up? I mean, what do you do on a consistent basis to seek that 1% growth every day? I know as a coach, you probably spoke that out, but is there a way that you've internalized that? And are
Yeah.
you
So right
active in
now,
that?
2 days a week, I go into the office and meet. We have two different sets of meetings that is all for growth. It's all for education, right? And they each focus on different things. And so I was very intent, and I told my wife, whatever we do on Tuesday, Thursday, we're going to these meetings every week, and I need that. I've got to learn and grow, and so I go in there, and it's been fantastic. Their one is for kind of the new realtors, right, or the newbies as they call us, and what's happened is a lot of the old vets have come in there with us because of, again, like we talked about, they're trying to get the new ideas, right? And so that's awesome because we just get to bounce things off each other. There's a lesson, and we listen and we learn, but then you get to bounce things off each other. And again, I'm just trying to be a sponge. And one lady told me the other day, it was after the chamber meeting. She's like, I didn't know you could talk. And I'm like, well, I'm the new guy, I need to be seen and not heard. And she's like, no, you got to talk more. And so I get it, but I'm trying to learn so much, and I'm over there with a notebook and a notepad, just trying to write everything that I hear that I can use. And so that's the biggest thing right now. And I kind of feel like once I have a real grasp on what we do within our brokerage, then I'm going to start hitting the outside sources, and get ideas, from agents who are not in ours, and pick their brains. I want to learn every detail of ours first before I go, try to learn from somebody that's not in our brokerage.
Okay. Yeah, absorbing the information, getting comfortable with the industry, kind of playing catch up, being that sponge right
Yeah.
now. What are some of the next level goals? I just want to get an idea of maybe 18 months from now, what would you like to see happen for you, your family, your business? And then once that's defined, I'd like to take a step and think 10 years. Because I think we overestimate what we can do in a year to 18 months,
Mhm.
but we underestimate what we can do in a decade. And so I like to present that in a way and then hear people's responses after. So first, let's think that 18-month range.
Yeah, so I'm talking just minute stuff of, we just, my wife and I became a team, right? So she was an individual real estate agent. I joined in, and together now we're a team. And within our team, we've got to do something small, like we have to be more present on social media with videos and stuff like this, like podcasts or whatever, to reach out there and talk to a lot of people. And so right now my goal is to up our game in social media, just that little bitty thing. I've got to figure it out, and it's not something that I've really ever done outside of, some Twitter posts, right? And it's not even called Twitter anymore. And so that's my immediate thing, right? But then down the road, we want to add people to our team. And in 10 years
Okay.
from now, we want to have a team of 5, 6, 7 agents that we're all working together. And I've got two boys, and one's a sophomore in high school and one's in eighth grade. And so it's very possible in 10 years they join our team. And gosh, Lee, how awesome would that be if I could have our boys working together with us, with a common goal. So that's my 10-year plan, is to grow our team and maybe even have my boys in there with us. But immediate goals are something simple, like just get social media rolling, and become comfortable with that.
Oh, that's really cool, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, for social media, I'll just say consistency. I think too many people they think about the quality, which is you have to have quality in your content, but it doesn't always have to quality doesn't have to mean the best audio or the best video. It could be, am I providing value in what I'm saying? And I saw some of your videos that you have up, and just doing that consistently and showing up every single day to provide value, just like you were to your athletes over time. You do that for the long enough time horizon. Alex Hormozy is a big mentor, another one that I like to read and study. He just put out $100 million leads. If you haven't checked it out, I highly recommend it. But then to your second point, to building the team, working with your kids. I mean, my kids are 6, 3, and 1.5, and so just thinking about ways that I can eventually kind of plug them into, not that I need them to be in my space, but I I'm so excited that they get to experience it, because I know it's going to be so valuable for their growth. And I don't need to just grip them and hold them and control where they go, but for them to be able to experience it, and for your kids to be able to see you and just have that quality time with you is really cool, man. Well, before we wrap this thing up, I mean, is there any message that you'd put out to somebody that's thinking about starting something on their own, or maybe they're struggling to get confidence that they need to do the pivot? I mean, you had to process that. You had a thing for years, and then you did it. You ripped the
Yeah.
Band-Aid off. So what would you say to speak into somebody that is struggling to get off of zero and to take the step that they know they need to take?
Yeah, if something's pulling at your heart like it was pulling at mine, listen to it. Don't fight it. Listen to it, and really, I would say go talk to people. Go talk to whoever
Mm,
you're closest to, and tell them how you're feeling. And once I started doing that, I started figuring out there were a lot more people that felt the same way I did. And once I did that, it kind of really opened our conversations up with my wife about moving forward with this real estate thing, and it was awesome because I didn't realize how much support out there I had. I didn't realize how many other people thought the same way I did and had those feelings. And yeah, and I went in with the mindset that it's going to be lean early. We're not going to, we're not going to kill it early, and that's okay. It's going to be lean, and heck, I can eat a bologna sandwich. It's no big deal, right? And so I'm just going to put my nose down and work. I've been trying to be a sponge and absorb all this stuff, and then just go work. And I think once I do that, we'll be fine. And anybody else that has those thoughts, I think you're the same way. Just be willing to go back to work and go back to the grind, and that's what I'm trying to do. And so we'll see. Let's do this again in a year, and let's see where I'm at.
let's
And see
go.
how it's going.
Yeah. Oh man, that's so beautiful. I could take that so many different ways. I mean, I think the key thing is making sure that you have the right people in your circle to begin with, so you can go. And if you don't have that person, make sure you work out all the naysayers, all the people that are not speaking or don't have the ability to speak into you. You have to have that first, so you can have that
Yeah.
conversation, man. And if you don't, man, it's hard. It's hard out here if you don't have people around you
Yeah.
that can speak into you, but not just talk you up, but to set you up for success and coach you up the way that, just to see your blind spots. Um, Good stuff, man. I knew this was going to be a great conversation. Where can
It was
people find
awesome.
you? Yeah, where can they find you? How should they reach out?
Oh
Just
man, you can find me all over. I'm on Instagram now. That's something
Yeah,
new for
let's
me.
go.
But Instagram, I'm on Twitter and Facebook. You can call me 972-679-4136. Just call me, text me, and Google me, man. Coach Cain, the realtor. It'll come up now, or just by my name, Cory with no E. But no, come holler at me. The biggest thing that I want to be in our industry is I want to be real. I'm a real dude. I'm going to be myself. And if you want somebody in the real estate area that's real and is one of you, call me, because I think I'm that guy. But
I
dude,
love that.
I really really enjoyed this conversation. Your energy is contagious, man. I felt it when I met you at the chamber, and I can feel it through this conversation. But I may have to bounce a lot of ideas off you in the future.
Hey, come holler at me, man. I'm here. I love that you said the realness, because again, in my industry, there's so many people that speak into the fluff, where for
Yeah.
me, I'm a man of the people because it's the only thing I know, and it's how I came up. And I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for people like you who on my side spoke into me and were able to just give me life. And I've just been blessed with great leaders. And so when I see one, I just want to like come alongside, man. So I appreciate that. I appreciate you for coming on. I appreciate everything that you said and just being real, telling your story. And man, just to wrap this thing up, I tell everybody, stay humble, stay hungry, stay streetwise. Peace. All right, everybody, that's a wrap. Thank you for making it to the end. Hey, if you like this episode, if it added value in any way to your life, do me a favor, give it a like, share it with a friend, give me a review, leave a comment, whether that's a rocket emoji, thumbs up, a fire, 100 emoji, leave me something. It's the only way to get this out there to other people, and I appreciate you so much for listening. As always, stay humble, stay hungry, stay streetwise. Peace.